You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And now, today is the 50th anniversary of President Nixon. And we have an important author that feels that President Nixon was not done the right thing by.
Yep.
And we also have his son-in-law here, Ed Cox, and let's see what he says.
Absolutely. And joining us now, John, is Nick Bryant. He's author, investigative journalist, has a book called The Truth About Watergate. And it's a bombshell. As you mentioned, John, it's the 50th anniversary of President Richard Nixon addressing the nation, announcing that he was going to resign. Nick, great to have you here. We also have Ed Cox. We have Governor Patterson, Judge Weinberg here. Talk about what you believe, history should have revealed sooner about President Nixon that you think should have viewed him more favorably.
What happened with Richard Nixon was a silent coup. And when he started his presidency, he really extended olive branches to both the Russians and the Chinese. He had been a cold warrior, but he saw that containment hadn't worked and it had been very expensive. So he opened China for diplomatic relations, and he started doing strategic arm limitation talks with the Russians. And that brought about an intense amount of antipathy from the Pentagon and also the State Department and the CIA, because he cut them out completely in his geopolitical moves. So the Department of Defense, or I should say the Joint Chiefs, actually had an espionage ring against Richard Nixon, trying to figure out what he was going to do with the Russians and also with the Chinese. And the Nixon administration eventually outed that espionage ring. It's called the Moore-Radford affair. And at that point, CIA operatives and agents had been infiltrating the Nixon administration. I liken it to like the last scene in Scarface, where Scarface burns the Bolivian drug lord and he sends droves of assassins. That's what the CIA did. And a number of them got into pretty strategic spots so that they could undermine Nixon. And Watergate was definitely set up by James McCord. He was one of the CIA agents that had infiltrated the administration, and he tried really hard to get busted the first time. They broke into the Watergate twice. The first time they broke into the Watergate, there were McCord and four swarthy Cubans. And they signed into the eighth floor, which was the Federal Reserve Board. Which had been
Nick, sorry to interrupt you, but real quick, we just have about 30 seconds. What is sort of the message that people can take away from the book and from the new message?
The message is that Nixon went up against some very powerful actors in the military-industrial complex, and they ultimately made sure that they did everything they possibly can to undermine his presidency. But a number of things, it was kind of like a harmonic convergence. A number of things came together that enabled them to depose Nixon.
Wow. Well, thank you, Nick Bryant. Really interesting and important to have you here on this anniversary. We'll have you back on again. It was really great to have you.
Nick, maybe we'll have you on for the weekend show. So call my office tomorrow.
That'd be wonderful.
Great. Okay. Congrats, Nick. Thank you very much.
And before we take a break, Ed Cox, any comment?
Yeah, look, there is a lot of malfeasance that was done, ex parte communications, which Judge Sirica by the special prosecutor.
Ed, absolutely correct. They never should have done it. Sirica, they made a hero, but he was totally wired with the prosecution, and that was disgraceful.
And then the Brady issues that evidence that should have been
exculpatory evidence that they hid. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. Yeah, really important.
All this is coming out now as a special this prosecutor's files are made available.
Yeah, wish that they had come out sooner, Ed, don't you think? Thank you. Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
Coming out now.
Thank goodness. Yeah, great to have you and get your perspective. Nick, thank you.